Hey kids, get in my van.
It's time for comics.
Hello and welcome to the Comic Book Van, and I am the comic book man, Angel Hernandez. With me, as always, is Stephanie.
Hello.
She's the "It's time for comics" part of the opening. Got a lot of things to talk about today, so we'll try to condense them as much as possible and not waste any precious time.
Yes, no more rants about Emma Stone and the likes of.
Yeah, fuck Emma Stone. I'm with you on that one, Stephanie. Couldn't have said it better myself. So, the funny thing that happened this week is that the Deadpool test footage leaked online, and then it was officially released, and then all of a sudden it got pulled. It's just weird to me that we just so happened to time our podcast perfectly with the release of the news. What'd you think of the footage?
I liked it. It looked really funny. It really looked like how Deadpool is supposed to be. So, if they go in the same line as the teaser trailer was, then I think it would do very well.
It was hilarious. It was a religious experience for me to watch that trailer and just be like a comic book character perfectly portrayed on the screen, like just exactly how he is, exactly how you picture him, exactly how we talked about it. It's definitely rated R. There's no way that him cutting off that guy's head and the other one bouncing off the concrete
and then getting run over
is going to be PG-13. The creator, Rob Liefeld, if you don't know about this guy, I am going to talk about him in a little bit. He was a part of a big movement in comic books. Seems to think that the movie would do just fine in PG-13. And honestly, for once, not for once, I disagree with that guy a lot. They turned a long time ago, they turned one of his creations, Shatterstar, gay. And
I've never heard of it.
Well, there you have it. That's about how much it mattered to the population in general, except for Rob Liefeld. He was a bit upset. He said that his character was like a Spartan warrior type guy, and I think Marvel tried to appease him a little bit, because afterwards it seemed that Shatterstar would hit on anything that breathed, because he would look at women and he'd be trying to make out with women, and his boyfriend would be getting angry, and anything that moves he was kind of for. So he was kind of like Gambit in that sense. He was a little sleazy, unintentionally, unlike Gambit, however. So I'm hoping it does happen. I'm hoping that it comes to fruition because of the positive reaction to this trailer. And if they're pulling it offline, that's gotta mean something, right?
Hopefully. But I don't know. I don't understand that business at all.
I agree. I don't understand the movie business at all, and they don't understand comic books sometimes. But for once, this looks right. So hopefully Ryan Reynolds can pull it off again as well. I know I badmouthed him last time. He did do a really shitty job as the Green Lantern, but I think that Deadpool, he will do a great job. We can follow up on The Hobbit now, because last week was just a bunch of confusion. It is December 17th. We have confirmed that, absolutely. I just saw the trailer right now. It had the date on it and everything.
Yes, they have moved the date from this summer to this winter. Which sucks, because I want to watch it now.
Well, I didn't even know about that, so I wasn't really missing it. From what you told me, I was anticipating something crazy like next summer, so I was scared for a while that I'd have to wait longer. If it's a release
because
for me,
I was confused. I was like, wait, it was supposed to be in the summer. Why is it not in the summer? So I don't understand. But you know me, I'm easily confused.
I do know you, and you are easily confused. It looks cool to me. I saw the trailer, but of course I'm kind of a newbie to the Tolkien.
I'm biased. It could suck, and I'd still go.
Well, at least they have that staunch fan support behind them. They'll make sure that a really terrible movie will do still really good business.
It's Peter Jackson. It's not going to be bad. He never makes a bad movie. Especially when you have something very fan-based as when he did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. If he messes up, he's going to have hordes of angry people beating down his door. Yeah. Especially if The Hobbit would be such a disappointment because he did so well at the first three.
How closely do the movies follow the source material?
Lord of the Rings was the best book to movie transition I've ever seen. Things might have been a little bit out of order, like maybe they put something that was in the first book at the beginning of the third movie, but everything you needed was there, and it made sense, and there really wasn't anything added, because it had so much it could use from. The Hobbit, there were scenes that were added, especially when they were up in the north with the elves, like, Legolas was not mentioned in the book, but it would make sense that he would be there because that's where he came from.
Okay.
The whole thing with the elf and the dwarf relationship thing, that wasn't there. But overall, it does follow really closely with everything, and he doesn't add anything that really seems like, oh, that shouldn't be there. But they do have 3 movies to make out of 1 book, so I would understand a little bit of a filler aspect.
What I understand for that is that they, for The Hobbit, that they went through his notes. They went through Tolkien's old notes and kind of used some of his source material that his studies when he was creating the Hobbit-verse, the Tolkien universe. I don't know what they call it, but his mythos.
Yeah, because he has a ton of stuff he can go through. Everybody knows him for the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, but he has tons of other books that go through Middle-earth.
That's right. What was the name of the other ones?
The Centurion is the next one that I know, but I'm not really well versed in all his other stuff, but there's tons of it. And the thing is, I think some of his sons even wrote things, based on probably his other notes and his other stories. So yeah, they probably drew a little bit from that. But the thing that I remember the most that they added to The Hobbit was the White Orc. He wasn't in the book at all.
It's a non-existent character.
At least I don't remember him at all. Like, he might have been mentioned, but I really doubt it. I think he was added to add something else to the story. A
little bit more action in the story, is what you're saying, like kind of like.
Yeah, I think for the battle scenes, yeah, he was added to that to add something else, because the big battle in the book doesn't happen till this movie. It doesn't happen right till the end when they're going to kill Smaug.
Okay.
So they needed something else to fill it in.
So spoilers, they're going to kill Smaug in this one, right? That's what's going to happen? Are the good guys going to win?
They're going to kill the dragon, but it depends on how you see who's going to win.
Okay, now let me tie this around to comic books here, because that's the purpose of this podcast, in case anybody's forgotten. Actually, here's an exciting prospect for me. I realized that we seem to enjoy things more when our conversations are looser and just freer on whatever we're feeling at the moment. So I feel like maybe anything geeky is good to bring up. Maybe every so often we can change the flow a little bit. It's called the Comic Book Van, but we have a bigger world than just comic books.
We have the Nerdiverse.
But, the Nerdiverse, I like that. But,
Copyright,
Comic Book Van, 2014. How come there's no Lord of the Rings comic books? I mean, would that be something you'd be interested in now, being exposed to comic books? Like, let's say, a mini-series taking place in between movies, or taking place on Middle-earth before certain events?
Yeah, that would be really cool, actually, because there's so many characters that you could follow. I liked the whole scene with Tom Bombadil, but that was taken out entirely in the books. No, excuse me, in the movies. Mm-hmm. He was non-existent, but he was kind of like a fun character, mystical being. So I would actually really enjoy that, because you don't even have to follow the main characters. There's so many other characters that you can follow.
I mean, here's the thing. They did this with Star Wars. Afterwards, they kind of just imagined, like, what if this world kept going? That world keeps spinning, these characters keep living, and things keep going on. Yeah. And I wouldn't mind seeing that with Lord of the Rings. Not only that, there's a bit of a lack of true fantasy right now outside of Lord of the Rings. Things for people who like sword-wielding magical items and, dragons. And there's a lack of cool stuff like that going around. So I would be excited for that. I'm imagining it might be a bit of a licensing problem. That seems to be what keeps these things out of production sometimes.
Probably. That's why The Hobbit took this many years to get into production, because the family, I believe, owned the rights and they weren't willing to give it up. Or I think it was partly that there was a really, really old Hobbit movie. End of the 80s, early 90s, they made a cartoon.
I recall that.
I remember watching that one, and I think whoever had that rights, I think it was them who owned it. It wasn't the family, so that's why it took so long. They wanted to do this a long time ago, right when the Lord of the Rings finished up production. They were like, oh, we should start The Hobbit.
Gotcha.
But they couldn't do it.
Honestly, I'm a believer in right time and the right place, and everything happened for a reason, and I think this movie definitely came out at the right time because we were hungry for more Lord of the Rings mythos. Right now was perfect. Honestly, I felt the trailer was a bit stale. In a sense.
It wasn't all that exciting.
It wasn't that exciting, but it was the first trailer so far for it. So I think as they expand on it a little bit more.
I think it might have been a teaser trailer, too.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think it was an official trailer.
Speaking of crappy teaser trailers, we saw one for Air, and Air is a comic book made by Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, and he's a great writer. I mean, honestly, everything he touched turns to gold. Before The Walking Dead was a TV show, he was already wowing people in the comic book world. And I think sales in Image Comics have shown that sales have improved a lot, especially for Image Comics. And you were telling me that was your favorite brand so far.
I always pick one up, and I like the cover of it at least.
You like the cover, and then you end up liking the story inside, too. Saga, Fatale, so far, two just to mention of. I picked up Rocket Girl. I really like that one. And I'm also interested in picking up Sex Criminals. Let me tell you about Sex Criminals.
Didn't we look at that one and were appalled on the inside?
A little bit. But I found out what the premise is. The premise is that it's about a couple who can stop time when they orgasm.
Oh my god.
I am so interested in reading this story now, so I'm going to have to pick
I'm not going to be with you when you buy that.
No, you got to be, because then I'm going to be like the pervy old man going up to the counter and be like, I want to...
The guy you buy comic books from is the pervy old man, so...
I buy comics from many people. They probably all are pervy old men. No, I take that back. That's not right to say at all. They're honest businessmen doing their thing. But I was just thinking more like I'd be going to like a 7-Eleven like back in the old day, and I'd be like, a bag of chips and, let me get a soda, some nachos, 2 of these magazines, and then that'll complete my order. And a pack of cigarettes, please. Thank you. I'll hit a discreet paper bag, please.
So you could buy those things at 7-Eleven?
Oh, way back in the day. I don't know anymore. I don't know. I don't keep up on my porn, Stephanie. I've
just never seen that at 7-Eleven. I used to frequent 7-Eleven when I was younger.
It's worth noting, what a horrible thing to tie into this, but it's worth noting that back in the day, in order to view pornography, you had to walk into a store and purchase it in front of live people.
At 7-Eleven.
What a sad time to be a sad, sad man. I'm so glad I live in the modern age.
Nobody has to know you're watching it on your computer.
Just see me hugging my computer like, thank you.
Oh.
That's a little weird. Anyways, Image Comics. That's what we're talking about here, right? Yes, Image Comics. I bring it up because I wanted to add a segment to our show, and I want to call that History Lesson, or Comic Book History Lesson. I don't have a title yet, but we'll have one eventually.
The catchy jingle.
Image Comics is the favorite brand, is so far your favorite brand that we found. Like, better than Marvel, better than DC Comics. They seem to have captured this indie spirit, this wild, uncontainable spirit of being able to write whatever you want. They have these ludicrous stories, like the one I just described with Sex Criminals, that you would never find, never in a million years find over at Marvel. You wouldn't find Thor or Hulk having to deal with that crap, or having that written in their books. Here's how Image Comics got started. In the 90s, for those who don't know, in about 91, there were several artists who were working in Marvel Comics that were doing big numbers for them. They were making the books very exciting. It was kind of like a new wave of an art because there'd be bigger splash pages and exciting action poses and action scenes between characters. So there was Jim Lee, there was Rob Liefeld, there was Eric Larson. They actually kind of called it the X-Odus when they all left Marvel, because so many of them were working on X-Men books. So 7 of creators left Marvel, just up and left them, and started their own company called Image Comics. And Image Comics immediately became lucrative. There was a high demand for the comics. As a matter of fact, this was like where the biggest boom in comic books happened, partly because of Image Comics. They were having these incentive covers with holograms on them or foil. They were just doing all these different kind of promotions, and people were buying hundreds of thousands of copies of their comics. These guys were making bank. Rob Liefeld, I mean, honestly, when you go back and look at the art and you look at the stories now, you're like, this is kind of garbage. This is what happens when artists go out on their own and try to write their own stories. But the important part of it is, okay, let me get my other point. Rob Liefeld was selling movies to people, just concepts, because they wanted ideas that they could license from these guys. Several of his ideas are movies that are still sitting on the shelf at different companies, but that he got paid for by selling them to them. He had meetings with executives at different film places. He was in a Levi's commercial that was directed by Spike Lee. But the big part about it is that they were artists who thought that they should create and own their own works, what they call creator-owned properties these days. And Image Comics has been going off of that for years now. I mean, all of the independents do it, obviously, but eventually they might sell their work. See, like at Marvel Comics and DC Comics, the only thing they're interested in is their young blood, the people that they bring in to start working there. They only want them to play with their toys. You can only write or draw the Avengers, or Spider-Man, or Hulk, or the X-Men. They're not interested in new characters, period. A lot of people have submitted resumes and submitted ideas to them, and they've always said that we're not looking for new characters. We want to see what you can do with ours if you're interested in work, but they don't want to see anybody kind of enter that universe. It's become too much of a franchise. There's a lot more invested in what they have already. Mm-hmm. Seems like that might be the way it is for all of time at Marvel and DC. But thanks to that one moment in time where 7 guys said, you know what, this isn't the way this should be. We should create our own characters. We should create our own works. We have all these great books right now. I read an article. We talked about it before. I think I mentioned to you, like, the golden age of comics. It was not the 90s. It wasn't the 80s. Right now is the best time. Right now is the time that everybody should be reading comic books. And that's one of my main goals here when we talk. You know, here just talking about comic books, I want to expose people to this world. I want to share what I find important about it with everybody. You know, barring not being able to read, everybody should be reading comic books, or at least
look at the pictures at least.
Them, or look at the pretty pictures. Have somebody read it to you. Do whatever you got to do, but tell people about comic books. And if you're even slightly interested, pick up one. So that's this week's history lesson. A couple other things important to me have been going on. As at the end of this year, Dark Horse is losing the rights to Star Wars comic books. They've had this property for like 20 years. First Marvel Comics had them. They lost them. Dark Horse picked it up, continued the universe, as I mentioned earlier, and they're finally losing them. And the sad thing is they just kind of recently restarted. Like they're on issue 20 right now of Star Wars, the ongoing series. And it's just going to abruptly end at the end of the year. Nobody's mourning it right now, though. It's literally the cat or the dog that got ran over in the street. People are just driving past it. They don't care that there's all these people right now working on those comic books that aren't getting any credit, that aren't going to get to finish their work. They're just looking at the pretty new pictures from the new stories. I'm excited for Marvel's take on it, but I feel like it was a mistake to stop Dark Horse's run. And if you look at their website, there's just the saddest letter ever about how it came to be that they're not going to have it and what they're going to try to do to make the situation better. It seems like they're looking for a new license, basically, and I have no idea what license they would pick up that would take the place of Star Wars. Unless it's Lord of the Rings.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be cool, because then I would definitely be picking up those Dark Horse books. But I also urge anybody who's listening right now, if you like Star Wars and if you're even slightly interested in that, check out the Dark Horse ones. Show them your appreciation. Pick up Dark Horse Star Wars comic books like they're hotcakes. We just watched a whole bunch of trailers right now, and one of them was the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. This movie hasn't even come out, and they already confirmed part 2.
I hope it does well for their sakes.
Imagine if it bombed.
Well, it might. It probably is going to do well. It's probably going to do very, very well because they've hyped it up so much. But who's to say if the movie's garbage on the inside?
Yeah, but
they've always made successful movies that you want to watch, so there's hope for it. But to confirm a second one before your first one's even come out is kind of like counting your eggs before they hatch.
I agree. We literally have 2 days before we get to find that out now. And 2 days before the review, 2 days before we watch it, and then, because it's going to be released this Friday, and then next week, which we review the movie and talk about the ups and downs and, what we liked and what we didn't like. We're going to finally get to see it. We've been waiting for forever.
When was the first time we saw this trailer? That was like way back when we saw...
I remember at Captain America, we saw it, me, you, and Juliet. We all saw Captain America, which was by far the best comic book movie of the year so far. Would you agree or would you disagree?
Yeah.
We saw Captain America, the Winter Soldier, then we saw Spider-Man.
We saw Thor all the way back in February.
We saw Thor, but I think at that point it was like from the theaters from last year. Yeah, it was like November of last year when it came out.
Oh. Yeah, we did see it at the cheap
theater. So
theater.
we saw it at the cheap theater where they're still playing old movies. So that is a count. It's not in contention. And then we saw X-Men Days of Future Past.
Well, I love X-Men, so that's a hard choice.
I mean, it's a hard choice for me too, because I'm always going to favor them. But looking at this unbiased, Captain America was a thrill ride. It was just nonstop.
It was really good.
Action, and not just dumb action. It was really well thought out. It was really enticing.
Yeah, and then when you realized the Falcon that was there, you were like, oh my gosh.
Oh man, I'm so happy about the Falcon in that movie. So, they didn't really confirm a hell of a lot at the Comic-Con Hall H panel. Honestly, I heard they just played a clip. They brought the actors out so you could be like, ooh, beautiful people on the stage. And that was it. I mean, Ant-Man's confirmed. We already knew that. So far we have May 1st, 2015, Avengers Age of Ultron. And this one should kick ass. I mean, the last one kicked ass. But I don't think they're going to screw up on any of these movies. There's a lot of money behind them, like we said. And everybody's back, it seems. And then July 17, 2015, Ant-Man. Which is kind of the wild card when you think about it. Because nobody knows how this movie's going to do.
Never even heard of him.
Never even heard of him. The casual fan hasn't heard of him. But the casual fan hasn't also heard about Guardians of the Galaxy. And so far, again, that's the top contender. Next to Captain America, those movies are going to be... Either one of them is going to be the best comic book movie of the year. I'm casting my vote in for Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm that hopeful about it. I just really want a good movie. There is other dates there. We got Captain America 3 for sure, May 6, 2016. There's an unconfirmed movie, July 8th, 2016. Unconfirmed, but many suspect it's going to be Doctor Strange. There was a lot of talk about this year, and I'm sure you don't know who Doctor Strange is either.
Nope.
But there was a talk about Johnny Depp maybe taking up that role. And honestly, of course he's worth like millions upon millions of dollars, and I think it would be a really hard actor to get. But I would think that this is one of those roles where his prefabricated, odd, eccentric man personality would probably work pretty well in.
He'll probably go for it if the character's like that. And he has kids, so he might jump on the whole, like, let me make something my kids can watch kind of thing.
Yeah, oh, well, see, there's that as well. There's a couple of their names thrown out there, though, but I'm kind of still holding out for Johnny Depp because he has the look. He has the look, and he's good enough of an actor to know that he can play that part. I probably shouldn't hold out too much, though. And I'm not going to speculate past that. Here's the thing. Everybody's speculating. I mean, there's 5 other unconfirmed, unknown dates. They gave us the dates, but there's 5 unconfirmed movies.
Strange.
Aside from the ones that we're just speculating on right now.
What else is there to make?
A third Avengers movie.
But isn't that the third one that's coming out right now? Or is it the second one?
No, it's the second one. Age of Ultron is Avengers 2.
So many superhero movies, I don't even know which one's which anymore.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I think, again, there's an elasticity here. The movies aren't going to last forever. People are going to be just like, I'm sick of superheroes in the movies.
Yeah, I guess to a point. I mean, people might get bored, but who knows?
It'll come around.
If they keep making good trailers that people really want to see, then they've got a good shot of actually lasting all the way to 2019, which is their hope.
They got a lot to do. They do have a lot to show. That's the thing here. Like in comic books, the reason why I mentioned before that I'm all for change in the comic books is because there's like 1,000 issues. There's like 50 years of continuity behind these stories already. We've seen everything played out already. Everything that's played out in every which way that we could possibly see, bar killing off characters and changing them completely. So in the comic books, it's time for fucking change. Sack up, kill some characters, bring in some new ones, let a whole new audience fall in love with them like we did with the old ones. Or not. But for the movies, there's a lot of good stories to be told that have never been shown cinematically before. Of course, everybody's going to get tired of origin stories. You can only see Spider-Man get bit by a fucking spider so many times before it wears thin. You can only see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot and the pearl necklace be ripped off and fall on the street so many times before.
Well, isn't that Sony's fault? I mean, whoever is owning X-Men, they can make X-Men for an eternity. But whoever owns Spider-Man, whoever owns Batman, they will hit a point where their movies are going to flop because no one's going to care anymore.
Spider-Man is also Sony. And they have the Venom movie coming out, supposedly. Sinister Six, for some reason, is the next one in line. They're talking about 5 Spider-Man-related movies in total here. Again, I think that they're kind of stretching these things out. Just give us fucking Spider-Man 3 already. Have the Sinister Six in it. I mean, I think that the possibility of a movie that's headlined by villains might be cool.
Be different.
But not everybody will think that. And I think it's going to be another failure. Not to mention how they're fucking driving Fantastic Four in the ground. Like, year after year, this thing is just going to get dragged through the mud until they're unrecognizable.
They're just hoping.
Well, what a shitty note to go out on. Hopeless.
Hopeless movie failures.
Actually, let's talk about What's Michael real quick.
Oh.
We went to JPM Comics in Glendora, right?
Yes. Right across from Donut Man.
Over on Route 66, right across from Donut Man. You can get some donuts, some famous...
Best donuts ever.
Featured on Food Network before.
Elvis loved them.
And there you have it.
I love them.
You can pick up some donuts and pick up some comics. Don't enjoy them at the same time, but maybe eat your donuts, clean your hands, then read some comics. We went in there, we went to the used section because we were being cheap this time. I mean, we literally have enough comics to fuel the comics portion of this for like 5 weeks. But the
we went to 2 comic book stores in that day.
Actually, we did, didn't we?
Yes. We went to Frankenstein's, and then you're like, there's another one. We're going to be by it. Let's go.
Perfect timing. I will always go to comic book stores now. It's so much fun because it's like I'm working, but I'm playing at the same time. The find of the century was a book called What's Michael? It's actually a manga written by Makoto Kobayashi. And what's the book about, Stephanie?
I love your transitions. It is a collection of short stories about Michael the cat and his friends on all their adventures in cat school and, cat food commercials.
Uh-huh.
And it is hilarious. And every short story is incredibly well written for only being like 4 pages long.
It's like no manga you've ever seen before. And remember, I talked about last week about how no comic book has ever made me laugh so hard that like I rolled over in tears. This is the book.
This one did it today.
Yes. I was dying because it's just so funny. And if you're a cat person, you'll love this. See? A comic book for everybody. Give this to a fucking cat person.
I saw it on the shelf and I ran to it.
She's a cat person, but she's not the sad, lonely type. But find somebody who's holed up in their house, 20 cats all over them, bags of food on the floor, kibble everywhere, and say, here, it's called What's Michael? Read it, and you'll have a fan for life there, because they'll look in there and they'll see their kitty. They'll see their kitty in Michael, or in Popo, his girlfriend.
Or the adorable cute kittens all over.
Oh, yes.
Adorable.
It's so well drawn, and the best thing I think we mentioned about this comic book is the facial expressions are just they're really expressive. Like everyone is different, and you can kind of tell what any given character is thinking by looking at their face.
Yeah, he's a really good artist.
He's a brilliant artist. I mean, honestly, I don't know what it is about it, but it's really well drawn, yet it's a comedy book, and it fits so well inside of it. So I would recommend anybody checking out What's Michael. Like, I can't describe to you every detail of it. You'd have to pick up the book, read it, laugh your ass off, and you will say, thank you, comic book man. Thank you for taking me in the back of your comic book van, tying me up, putting Wix Michael in front of my face, slowly turning the pages.
That just got disturbing really quick. I thought we were leaving things up for the imagination over here.
I didn't say anything about anything else.
You were tying people up!
Did I say that? Oops.
Yes!
Anything to get my mind off of Dark Horse and Star Wars comic books, okay? You know the sound I made when I found out that the Star Wars comic books were going to Marvel? It was more like, no!
Yeah.
I did that really poorly, but that was Anakin Skywalker at the end of Part 3, where he puts his arms up in the air in the Darth Vader costume and goes, no!
Is that what that was?
Yeah, that's what that was. But I guess you don't watch Star Wars.
I have seen all the movies. I even saw the third one in the theater.
And you're just like, I don't dig this.
It's like, it was okay, but I'm not fanatical about it. If you could tell from the beginning of the episode, I would much rather watch Lord of the Rings extended director's cut all day long before I would watch Star Wars.
And there you have it, people. The difference between us. Will this bridge mend? Find out next time on the Comic Book Fan Podcast. Bye.
Bye.